And now, you're tuned in to RBLR, the home of Tampa Bay's Reveler Sports.
Hello, everyone out there in Tampa Bay and beyond. This is James Knowles coming at you for the RBLR Sports Podcast here, recording on a Wednesday night. Not per usual, but per usual, I have my co-host Carlos here. How are you doing, sir?
James, I'm doing pretty well. I just saw myself in the camera as we're recording, and I realized my hair is a mess, and I really want to go grab a hat, but we'll stick through it. It's been a good day, James. The Rays got a win earlier today. I was watching that earlier. Been getting huge at the gym. You know how it goes. And here we are. We're talking Rowdies. It's been, I guess, a roller coaster of emotions for me regarding Rowdies news recently. I'm sure most of the Rowdies family will know what I'm referencing. Lots to talk about, James. I mean, even more so than just this past weekend against El Paso, which was a great game. Lots to talk about there. Looking forward to doing that. But again, before we do any of that, James, as per usual, what's going on in your life? What's going on in the life of James Knowles?
Nothing much right now. I am looking out the window to my right, and it is, well, actually, it's not at the moment, but it's been pouring down for most of the day. Yeah. So I imagine it'll pick up in the next 5 minutes or so. If you hear any lightning, I am okay, as far as I'm aware. But Carlos, we do have some other thunder. It's not the greatest segue, but we do have some other stuff to talk about from this past weekend. Yeah. So on Saturday, the Rowdies went to El Paso and earned a draw against what was another one of the top teams in the league. So very respectable results against two of the top teams in the league so far this past month. And in the RBLR Cup standings, Eureka takes full points for his prediction of both the result and the scoreline. Well done to producer Eureka. Carlos, you get 1 point, and that puts me and the guest on 12. Carlos, you are on 10, and Eureka has 9. So it's all very tight there, actually. Now, we have another chance to see how well we can do in our predictions because we have to preview our next game coming up this weekend against Loudoun United. I think that game is going to take up more of our time tonight because of some roster moves that you and I have to get to, Carlos. We'll get to that in a little bit, so I don't want to give anything away just yet. But before we do our recap, please, of course, like and subscribe to our podcast. We are on YouTube, where you can see us talk about everything while we do the talking. And you can subscribe to us on every major podcast platform, as well as social media at RBLR Sports on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, wherever you guys are. So are we. Carlos, now, if you could, let's get to that quick recap, and then we'll do our questions and analysis. And finally, we will do our preview.
Yep. You hear the rumbling in the background? Did you hear that thunder? Oh, I don't know what that sounds like in the microphone. That sounds pretty cool. But anyway, quick recap, James. Let's jump into the starting 11 this past weekend against El Paso and what was sure to be a thrilling matchup between two of the hottest teams in the league right now. El Paso has a really, really good-looking roster, and they've been playing up to the caliber of their starting lineup. So anyway, for us, we had Sparrow in goal, Antley, Lasso, Guillen, and Spalding made up a back line of 4. Correct me if I'm wrong, James. It's kind of what I saw going on. But again, Neill Collins' system is very dynamic. It looked like a back line of 4 to start off this game against El Paso. Dalgard, Ekra, Jordan Doherty, Charlie Dennis made up kind of that midfield unit with J.J. Williams and LaCava playing as a striker. Maybe we see more of that going forward. LaCava last season, if you recall, played more as like a winger, seeming to be more of a striker role so far this season with us. Had a great game. I won't spoil it, but I'll let you know what happened in about 30 seconds here. The first half was goalless, pretty even. El Paso actually probably had 2 of the clearest chances of the game early on and around the 2nd minute, James. It was a really, really clear look in front of goal off of a corner. Who I'm forgetting the El Paso player, but who just skied it high. The ball fell right in front of him in the box. Could not have been an easier finish, and he just shot it way, way over the bar. On a baseball field, very much a home run. On the soccer field, doesn't really count for anything. They had another clear chance later on from the left that Sparrow saved really nicely. Sparrow had a pretty decent game, if I may say so myself. Went into the half 0-0. Second half had much more action in terms of goals. LaCava would get the first goal of the game. off of a cross that would eventually just bounce out to him, kind of right at the top of the box. And he had a beautiful left foot finish to put the Rowdies up 1-0 in the 52nd minute. No more than 11 minutes later, Kostashin for El Paso would equalize the game on a really insane shot, James. An opportunity that, as the announcers on the game said, came out of quite literally nowhere. They had nothing going for them really on that play, but Kostashin put in a fantastic shot that took a bounce right in front of the goal and ended up behind Sparrow. Yeah, not much for him to do there. It was a really tough shot. He had plenty of space. Maybe he could have done a bit better, but yeah, it's all right. Yeah, that would be the last goal of the game, James. The game would finish 1-1, a draw that wasn't exactly a scoreline I predicted, but a draw that I figured it could definitely be in the books with how well both these teams have been playing. Yeah, nothing to separate these teams at the end of 90. Both teams would leave with a point. Yeah, maybe, the Rowdies could have done a bit more in the second half to put away some clear chances. LaCava had a couple more chances, really, clear looks from the left side. But Diaz stood on his head for El Paso in the second half and kept the game 1-1. Again, maybe disappointed not to come out with all 3 points, but James, this is a fantastic El Paso team, and they are playing better than they've ever played before right now. I mean, this is as well of a streak, as good of a team as they've had in a little bit. So 1 point away in El Paso, Texas is not that bad. To go back really quickly, the injury report listed Hilton, Hervo, Harris, Schroeder, Lucky and Pusana, and Ariel Martinez. They were all out. Very, very deep injury list. And Wyke, I don't think we've mentioned this so far, James, but Wyke was recalled back to his Nashville side. Was briefly on loan with us and, wrapped up the loan maybe a bit quicker than we would have liked. So very, very thin roster. Maybe something to talk about going forward with the game coming up this weekend. But before we do any of that, James, I went on a very long, quote unquote, quick recap there. Let's talk about this game a bit more before we jump into the preview and before we look ahead. Yeah, obviously there's some player news to talk about, but I do want to focus on this game for a second because I think we had a pretty good game, James. First half, not much to separate the teams, right? Any standout moments for the Rowdies in particular, James? I can't really recall any particularly good-looking opportunities. Again, the only great opportunities I can think of in that first half were for El Paso. Sparrow did a good job on one of those and kept the game 0-0. So what do you think about that first half?
Yeah, I would tend to agree with you that it wasn't our best attacking half ever, let's say. What I would probably point to is more so our defensive performance on this one. You already mentioned Connor Sparrow, so I don't want to hit on him too much, but he did obviously do very well in moments. I think that we've seen that all season. He can be shaky at times, but I think that overall he's still a very good goalkeeper, and I think that he's going to be one of the best goalkeepers in the league come the end of the season. So I think that he's just, continuing to build on this. And we saw it this past weekend again. For everybody else, I think that it was also, a very good performance. If you look at the way that El Paso plays, a couple notes from the guru himself, John Morrissey. Something that he noted about this in his, his own review, but it was a 2-game review of our game versus El Paso and the Las Vegas game versus El Paso. So, we are both, on the receiving end of the way that they played recently. And their left winger, Aaron Gomez, someone that you and I highlighted this past weekend, or this past week, of course. He will play very high up and kind of switch places with Ricardo Zacharias, who is their other or the second striker. And then the winger on the right side is Dennis Kostishin. And Dennis Kostishin will kind of play deeper until maybe they have a little bit of momentum on the left side. And then, if there is a lot of opposition players over defending on that left side, then Dennis Kostishin will realize that he has space on the right side and go and try and fill that up. So those are a couple of things that we could have all seen, at different points over this first half, I think. And it was also, I think that, you and I will probably point to some moments in the second half where the Rowdies could have done better on the attacking side. I think that El Paso fans will just about do the same when it comes to the first half, especially. Maybe one or two in the second half of them. But regardless, I think that they definitely will also look at this game as something that they could have won, just like you and I will come afterwards and say we could have won it. I think that we did a very good job ultimately of, even if we didn't defend the build up as well as we needed to prevent the chance from actually being created, and then they get a pretty good shot off in certain situations. We still did a very good job on the defensive side of those late recovery runs and, those last ditch tackles, so to speak. It's a commentator's cliche, I guess, but, we did have a couple of them. And I think that it's worth highlighting our back line. We did play, as you said, in certain different formations, and Ryan Spalding was playing high in certain moments. He was playing deeper in certain moments, allowing Aaron Guillen to kind of step back as a center back. And this is all stuff that we've seen over the past couple of weeks because the Rowdies are used to playing with three at the back. So being able to switch into that system is, pretty natural for us. And I think that is something that we are going to see for the rest of the season, more than likely. And Aaron Guillen did well. I think Forrest Lasso did well too. But it was just interesting to see exactly where everybody kind of lined up in certain situations and how they tried to deal with the movement of El Paso. Yeah. There are people who also did maybe a little bit less well in certain situations in the first half too. I don't want to be too harsh on anyone, but I think that Lasso and Guillen were probably more of the standout side. Sure. And that's also partly because I think they were more responsible for just sitting in one area. That makes it easier. You don't have to be in one place and then come back to your place on defense. But regardless, I think that it was very good to get into halftime 0-0. And, overall, I would say that we were able, especially after the first half going the way that it did, not that it was some huge disaster or anything, but going the way that it did, we were able to kind of get ourselves more on the front foot in the second half, and that's kind of where we started to look like a better team on our attacking side. And I think that just comes down to the confidence that came from us having not given up a goal.
Yeah. No, I fully agree. I think you summed up that half pretty well. I'm looking back at the lineup on Fob Mob and on Twitter, and I know I mentioned like the injury report earlier, but I don't know why it just clicked in my head that there were only 5 substitutes on the bench, available to play. And I was looking at the recap earlier and going back and reading the stats and everything. And I was like, oh, that's weird. There's only 1 sub this game, right? And it was Armin for Ekra. Again, Armin kind of slotting into that central midfield role, maybe out of necessity more than anything, but dynamic player. It's something for the second half, so I'll save it there. But interesting, this is, again, I don't want to look ahead too much. We'll talk about this in a little bit, but I mean, this must have been a tactical challenge.
Right, exactly. That's kind of where I come from too.
And against El Paso, who is again in the hottest streak in the USL, I would say, I can make that statement pretty comfortably. I think, to hold on to a 0-0 result going to halftime, I think is pretty good, especially like you said, with the chances that El Paso had. And I mentioned that weird corner kick situation they had in the second minute that could have very easily put them up 1-0. I think we got a bit lucky there, but we held on well. We didn't really let them create too much apart from that. And then where's my notes? They had that look in the 25th minute from the left side. Again, Sparrow made a great save there. Just put yourself in Neil Collins' shoes for a second for that, for this game in El Paso. There's very limited subs you can make in this game. Again, Tate Johnson is a fantastic player, but do you want to put in this kid who's still developing and kind of, getting kind of his feet under him still in the league against El Paso, right? Who's again playing some of their best soccer.
You have to take into account the opposition, obviously.
Exactly. I mean, you have Tate Johnson on the bench. You have a goalkeeper. You have Breno, right? So your other options are Kleeman, a defender, and Cal Jennings and Jake Hartman. I'm a bit surprised Cal Jennings didn't get a call here off the bench and get sub in for JJ Williams or something. But man, I mean, these guys must have been exhausted by the end of these 90 minutes, running up and down, keeping up with a pretty dynamic El Paso team. Again, that's all to say 0-0, like you said, going into half is pretty solid. And then given the circumstances, given everything going on, good result. So, James, let's move on. I think we talked about the first half enough. Summarize all the important stuff going on. By the way, let me just say how much I hate El Paso's field. Oh my God. Like it's horrendous. It might be worse than Louisville's old stadium where they were playing at that baseball stadium, but like this is even more defined. Like it's so bad. Whatever. Second half comes around, James. A lot more action to talk about. Particularly on the offensive side of things, particularly for the Rowdies. I think we had the better looks in the second half. 1-1 was the final result. I'm going to say it's a pretty fair result, given El Paso chances in the first half, given our chances in the second half. I feel like they all balance out, whatever. How did the second half go? Did we change anything? Was there anything different about how we came out and approached the second half, or did things just kind of start falling into place eventually?
You know, I probably would have, if I were smarter at this, I would probably have some exact like, oh, they moved this guy here, they moved that guy there a little more. But maybe my tactical mind isn't quite up to snuff, like you know, a Rowdies coach, let's say. But I think that from what I could tell, it was just more so the fact that we were a little bit more on our game. I think the first half was not. It wasn't like hanging on. Again, I keep using language that makes it sound like this was some dreadful game in the first half. It really wasn't, but it was just closer than I think Rowdies fans would obviously want. Let's put it that way. In the second half, we just had a lot more control, I think, and we were able to kind of build or stop El Paso from building. Is where I'm taking that, and we were able to stop El Paso from building a little bit more. And we obviously do like to press, and that's where we can win a lot of chances. But I think that more so came about in the second half than the first, certainly. And if you can prevent them from getting into the situations where their players are starting to try to make the runs that they like to make, then obviously that is the best way to do it. And then you don't have to worry about them, getting the chance to even make those runs. So, but that's kind of where I saw it, I guess. But Carlos, take me through the goal as far as you saw it here, because I liked the build up and everything, but I also like the goal scorer, and I think that this is something that you wanted to take on specifically. So I'll let you lead us through that.
No, obviously I'm very biased towards offensive, soccer and whatnot, especially when it comes to really nice goals. And I really like this goal, James. I'm pulling it up again to take a kind of like walk through it again. By the way, JJ Williams and LaCava, before I jump into this goal specifically, they had I want to say it was 2-3 minutes after this actual goal, where they linked up with some beautiful interplay. JJ Williams kind of flicked the ball onto LaCava. I don't know like what kind of chemistry they got going on within like the week that they've known each other, but if they can keep this up, James, I mean, I'm really excited to see what they can do as a pair up top. Please, Inter Miami, just don't recall Jake LaCava right now. Like we really the roster is thin, and Jake LaCava would get on the end of this first goal. So hopefully he keeps this up. But so what happened in this first goal, James? Really, really nice, nifty play going on the right side. Dalgard has been having a pretty great season, all year. In this game in particular, I want to say it wasn't much different. He's had to slot in. Originally, Dalen Harris had kind of been getting a few more minutes, I would say. But Dalgard's come in and played a really, really good roll on that right side. Yeah, there was a flick on from JJ Williams to Dalgard. Dalgard shows a lot of speed on that right side. Sneaky fast, by the way. Yeah, ran onto that ball well, controlled it well, brought it down, and just whipped in a really aggressive cross. One of those crosses doesn't really have a particular target in mind. It looked like he was just kind of throwing it at the goal, and that's a perfectly good way to approach that kind of play, James. He just whipped across at the goalie. Benny Diaz, the El Paso goalkeeper, is forced to just parry it away. He made the mistake that all goalies regret as soon as it happens, when they parry it away right into the middle of the box. And there was none other than Jake LaCava, who was following the play close by to finish it as the ball bounced right out to him. It could not have been any better for him, and finished it beautifully with his left foot. Again, lots of moving parts there. Jake LaCava, he's not, lucky in this case. And I'm not talking about our substitute lucky because I'm not talking about the actual luck. He's not lucky in this case. Like some people might say he was lucky to be in the right spot at the right time. But that is pure, I hate like this phrase because people use it so much in the world of sports, but high IQ, right? That's just smart. I mean, he knew what was going on. He could see the play developing. JJ Williams was making the run like right in front of the goalie's face, kind of putting the pressure on there. LaCava knew that if there was going to be a rebound, it would come out to him. And he was right. There was a rebound from the goalie, and he just finished it beautifully into the left-hand side of the goal. Nothing the El Paso players could do about it. There was 2 El Paso players on the line, and they had no chance at, making some cool goal line clearance or anything. Really, really nice play, James. Kind of brings together, all the good aspects of rowdy soccer that we've seen in recent weeks, in terms of offensive play, quick passes, quick movement, the nice, interplay between JJ Williams and the wingers. Unfortunately, we've lost one of those wingers going forward. But our other winger, Dalgard, coming in and making something happen. He's had a fantastic season, and I'm looking forward to him keeping that up. Yeah, just a beautiful play, James. Nothing more to say about that. LaCava, beautiful finish. It's much, much harder than it looks to do that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It was a one-time finish. Yeah, I couldn't do that, in a million years, honestly, like with that quick reaction time. But again, he had a guy like sliding in behind him too. Like there was so much going on in that 2-second play between the cross, the ball bouncing out from the Benny Diaz's parry, and Jake LaCava finishing that. Very, very well worked. Great play between JJ Williams and Dalgard. Great cross from Dalgard. Sorry about that. There might be some weird jumping around there. My Wi-Fi just went out, but let me just finish my thought on that goal, James. LaCava, beautiful. Dalgard, beautiful. JJ Williams, beautiful. A lot of great interplay going on. And again, just to finish what I said earlier, I think that play just kind of, brings together everything, as I said earlier, that has made this Rowdies offense click in the past few weeks. So long-winded way of saying I loved it. That being said, James, no more than 11 minutes later, El Paso came back and tied the game. But before that, we had a really good look. JJ LaCava just 2 minutes later had another great play. Again, with JJ Williams. JJ Williams flicked it on beautifully for Jake LaCava, who was running to his left. Just a really, really great look there. It's kind of like a back heel situation. And LaCava with his left foot, shot it. Tough angle. Benny Diaz, great save to him. Credit to him. Him and Sparrow both had great looks. And Dennis just kind of skied it high. Again, home run at El Paso's baseball field. Yeah, and after that, Connor Sparrow had a great save himself, 56th minute. 6 minutes later, El Paso scores a goal. What happened on that El Paso goal, James? Do you have a breakdown of what happened there? Because defensively, I've been looking at this goal, can't really figure out what happened. I can't really blame it on too many people except maybe the midfield getting a little, lackadaisical here and giving him a bit too much space. Could Sparrow have done more?
I think so. You said earlier with the strike, it's kind of one of those where once that leaves his foot, it's almost like game over at that point in terms of the goal. Anyway, obviously there was plenty more time, but Yeah, I would say that if we're going to put this on anybody, he needs to have more pressure on him before he can line that up. I'm sure there's somebody out there who would blame Connor Sparrow. I think that a lot of these situations as a goalkeeper, if there's just some wonder strike that comes out of nowhere, especially if it's, pretty far out, situations like that, I don't know how frequently you can blame your goalkeeper. Maybe if it is like in MLS in the last 2 weeks, we've seen 2 different goals from players in their own half. Then you could be like, okay, the goalkeeper needs to be a little bit more aware. He needs to stand back a little bit more and not give whoever it is the space to take that shot. That's not the situation here, obviously. So let's just rule that out. I don't think that we can really put this on Connor Sparrow. I think that this just comes down to the people around where Kostishin literally is. And at that point, you just need to shut him down a little bit quicker, or put some pressure on. I don't know, yell when he's about to shoot. Like, just try to put him off the shot or something like that. Mostly when somebody takes a shot like that, they're going to sky it. They're going to put it wide. They're not even going to, put it anywhere near the target, because it's just hard to do that in most situations, unless you're like, Lionel Messi, Cristiano Ronaldo level. But
yeah,
every so often, one of them will go in. We've seen Sebastian Dalgard do that. I mean, it's definitely, I mean, Lewis Hilton even, I think, has taken one of those from outside the box that just kind of dribbled out to him. Yeah, it's hard to do, but sometimes it happens. So really, I just kind of think that everybody saw him lining up and didn't really expect it to go as well for him as it did.
Yeah.
And, they did put it in. I think that of all the chances in the game, the fact that that's the one that went in, fair enough. The Rowdies kept it to that good of a shot is what they need to score. I will take that as a Rowdies fan. Again, you and I have mentioned this multiple times. El Paso were at the top of the league, at least before the game, and I think they might still be now. But regardless, so they were at that point the best team in the league, and you can keep them to kind of a draw off of a really, really solid strike that again is still kind of low percentage if you want to get in, if you want to break it down that way. Like, it wasn't inside the box, or it wasn't any of those very obvious chances. So I think that it's unfortunate, but again, how much can you really complain to get a result against this team? It's like the game against Sacramento. The Rowdies are going up after a very tough start to the season, and we get a hard-fought draw against Sacramento, but Sacramento was the top team in the league at that point. And I was perfectly happy with that then. I'm perfectly happy with this now.
Yeah, I would say I was a little bit more frustrated by the Sacramento draw, just because I felt like we had so many more chances in that game to put that away.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, but this game, I'm happy with it, right? You could look at this goal, and I'm looking at the screenshot I have of it. There's a good 5-6 yards between what's his name, between Kostishin and the next closest Rowdies player, which is Guillen. And
how far is he from the box?
Oh, he's 18. He's a good 10 yards outside the box.
Yeah.
So I mean, like,
how high percentage a shot is that?
Yeah, nobody's expecting that shot to even get off this guy's foot, really. The back line, I think, has a bit of an excuse here, because there's 2 players from El Paso making a run at the same time as Kostishin's getting ready to take the shot. So, if those guys go up to try and block this guy's shot, there's 2 wide open El Paso guys making a run, whatever. I think they made the right decision staying back and tracking with those guys, because then if, Kostishin made that pass, we would have been like, what the hell is going on here, right? Why weren't they covering their guys? Maybe Armin's a bit slow tracking back and getting back to him, some walking there. But again, I mean, it's a shot that nobody really expects to even take. So whatever. Again, you take this draw 1-1 away, right? That's a big factor. We've never played it in El Paso before. It's a hefty trip. You're playing on some turf that you've never played on before, a turf that you really want to leave and never play again on. it's much tougher than it sounds to just go in there and play and get a draw or get a result. Again, circumstances surrounding the team, lots of injuries, Wyke getting recalled, Armin not playing in his natural position, maybe struggling to maybe kind of get his footing there. But I think he had a decent game in the second half, just based on what I saw. Whatever, not really much to complain there. That's fine. 1-1, fair result. James, do you agree?
Yeah, no, especially with the absences, and that's going to impact us in the next game, which is where you and I are really going to talk about this. But yeah, especially if you take into consideration where the team is in terms of literally the size of the roster, I don't think it's honestly all that bad, and I don't think any of us can really complain about the result. You know, even the fact that we were possibly, you know, could have possibly won under the circumstances, I'm pretty good with on my side.
And I would even say El Paso probably had one more clear chance than we did, just counting what I saw in my head right now. But it was so even. I think it's a super, super fair result. You know, if there's an El Paso podcast, they might be saying that they deserve to get the win. They were at home, probably wanted to get the win. But I don't think anybody can complain. They're still up top of the table. We're within striking distance of first place in the Eastern Conference. We're only 3 points out of first place with a game in hand over the first place team currently, which is Charleston. We have a better goal differential than them. Pittsburgh is 2 points ahead of us. Same amount of games played, slightly better goal differential. So they might be our challenger, I guess, for first place over the next couple of weeks. How about the West Coast, James? I mean, the Western Conference is putting out some good teams. I never used to pay attention in the Western Conference, honestly. It seemed like it usually was kind of a one-horse race. For a little bit, Phoenix was kind of, you know, dominating. I just never thought there was that much competition out there. It always seemed like the Eastern Conference was pretty clear in terms of quality of teams. But hey, I mean, San Antonio was supposed to be by far, in a way, the best team in the league. And here comes El Paso and Sacramento, 1 and 2 ahead of them. So, yeah, it's going to be fun to watch over there what happens with the Western Conference. But for now, James, let's focus on the Eastern Conference. We're in third place. 1-1 draw gives us 1 more point. Striking distance of first place. I'm happy. Broader themes. Played Sacramento, who was in first place at the time. We played El Paso, who was in first place at the time. It still is in first place. 1-1 result in both games. Again, I think fair results in both games, to be honest. What does that mean for us? Are we, you know, struggling to beat the top teams, or, you know, are we competing with the top teams? What does it say about us? Is it a good thing to get these 2 draws, or should we be wanting more, right?
Yeah, when I learned about the score, and then, you know, we go back and watch it and all that kind of stuff, this team has me feeling really good overall. I think that you and I, when we started this year, we looked at the roster that they built and we were like, okay, the Rowdies are going for it this year. The Rowdies are trying to win this year. And I don't want to, you know, last year when Leo and I were doing this show, we would have a hot take section after the game, or after the questions and analysis. And if I had a hot take, I think that I would have a very spicy take tonight, just that I think that, you know, this is possibly the team. But I'm gonna withhold that because we don't have our hot take section, and because I don't want to kind of put that out there at the moment. I want to hold it back a little bit, but it is looking very good for me that this team is just building on success after success, and I would consider both of those draws a success overall. So with that being said, I am pretty high on the team at the moment. And the only potential problem is something that you and I are going to discuss when we get into our preview, but we'll get there when we get there.
Sure. Yeah, I agree. I'm happy with those results. Again, kind of wanted more out of that Sacramento game, but that might be just because it was one of my few in-person games so far. Now that I'm back home for the summer. But it is what it is. Happy with this. Happy with the result against El Paso. I think we're doing A-okay, you know, to put it lightly. Good team, good, you know, adjustments. Yeah, I'll save my, you know, comments on, I guess, the depth for in a few minutes. James, let's move on to your man of the match.
Yep.
As we start to wrap up this game. I think we've covered the El Paso game very thoroughly. Not much else to say on that other than I think we're pretty happy with that.
Yeah, my man of the match, I think for this one with all the, defensive output that was necessary to keep it level, to keep us in the game for the whole of the first half, and then to keep us in the game even after El Paso scored to level it up. I'm going to go with a defender, and that defender for me is Aaron Guillen. Aaron Guillen, you will see Forrest Lasso and Aaron Guillen are very high on the stat sheet in terms of their interceptions, their shots blocked, all that kind of stuff, clearances, headers, whatever. But yeah, Aaron Guillen for me was not only, very good on that stat side, but as the man wearing the captain's armband all season, obviously he has had a very important role to play. And I think that is kind of his role in this past game against El Paso, because it's a difficult team. It's a difficult game. And I'm very happy that he was able to contribute the way that he did.
Agreed. He, I've been really surprised with how he's been used this season, or not surprised, but I think really just intrigued. He's been playing left back sometimes, center back some other times, just kind of had to play where he's needed to be played, and done a really good job at every spot. Again, he's one of those guys who's kind of sneakily fast, shows some really good pace, and can distribute the ball really well. Again, one of his other sneaky traits. Had a huge role in that second LaCava chance that very easily could have ended up in a goal. He was the one that kind of played that pass out of the back. Great shout. Aaron Guillen, fantastic man of the match. Again, for the sake of giving credit to our goal scorer, my man of the match will be none other than Jake LaCava. A fantastic finish. Again, it's hard for me not to pick the goal scorer as the man of the match. So shout out Jake LaCava. His goal not only sparked things, I guess, for us, but was quite literally the goal that got us the point in El Paso. So you can't complain too much about that. Great performance from him. Could have ended up with maybe I'm exaggerating, but he could have ended up with a hat trick. Honestly, he had some good looks, made some great runs. And I'm excited to see what he can do if he continues to kind of be used in this striker position. We'll see what happens. I mean, he seems like a pretty dynamic player who can kind of rotate around as needed. Played fantastic in his role as a striker this game, and I think he can kind of, he can put up numbers like last season if he sticks around with us. So again, Inter Miami, please don't recall this man. You have Messi, just stick with that guy, and we'll keep LaCava for now. So yeah, Jake LaCava, man of the match, great game from him.
I like that shout. All right. Well, that will take us to our next segment. Before we get there, I do want to say, of course, liking and subscribing is free, but if you think that you might need some new threads coming up this year, you can check out our shop. That's shop.rblrsports.com. If you go there, I think that you will find something you like, as I say every week, because I believe it. I have done so recently, and I got that. I'm not wearing the hat, and we're recording. I have the hat so I can cover up these bald spots here, and it's over in the corner, but I'll wear it next time for sure. Anyway, if you would like a hat, whether or not you're trying to cover up your own bald spots, please go to shop.rblrsports.com and check out all the designs that we've got there. And you can find a link in the description. Use the promo code as well, COYR, for 10% off, and you will get that 10% off. Now, Carlos, if you would, take us into the preview here. And then I did not include it in the preview section, but before we get to our predictions, we need to highlight the biggest problem, the thing that you and I have been dancing around all night. So we'll get to that.
So upcoming this Saturday, we are playing none other than the powerful Loudoun United Football Club.
Your early favorite this year.
Yeah, I was going to mention that in a second. On Saturday, the Rowdies will travel to Loudoun County, Virginia to play Loudoun United at 7 p.m. Having been to that stadium a couple times, it's around where I go to school. It's a really nice area. It's a nice little stadium. Wish they got bigger crowds because it could create a really nice atmosphere. Unfortunately, I won't be there this time around, but nonetheless, looking forward for a good result as we all scream our hearts out back home here in Tampa. Loudoun currently sit in 9th place in the Eastern Conference with 16 points from 15 games. Much better than, the past couple seasons. So shout out to Loudoun. Tampa Bay sit in 3rd place in the Eastern Conference with 25 points from our first 15 games. It's a far cry from how our season started. Loudoun only have, 5 wins on the season, 2 from their last 2 games against pretty bad teams, honestly. Miami and Tulsa, who are even lower than them on the table. And the other 3 wins they had were very, very early on in the season. Again, as James referenced, there were several episodes at the beginning of the season where when I was running out of stuff to say about the Rowdies, I was giving shout outs to Loudoun because I thought they could be something special this year, I guess relative to what they have been in the past. Things not going so well for them anymore after that. What was a pretty good start for them. So, Loudoun will also be traveling to Birmingham tomorrow, I guess when this episode comes out. So they'll be tonight. So when you hear this tomorrow,
when they hear this, the game will have already been played. They will have already
played. So check for that result and see how that went. But they'll be playing tonight as well. So short turnaround for them. Hopefully plays to our advantage. Again, looked as Loudoun might be getting a bit more independence, but they still have a lot of DC United youth team players. So there's a lot of tactical flexibility and a lot of movement around the team. Hugo Farrell or Dane Yakiman will be in net for them. Their back line is entirely under 22 years old, with Matai Akinmombi, the youngest, being 16 years old, James. Wow. Aiden Rocha, shout out him, Georgetown Hoya, fantastic player when he was at Georgetown. Great guy, great friend of mine. And Jeremy Garay will be in the center of the midfield. Keep an eye out for Aiden. Again, fantastic guy, fantastic player. Up top, you'll see Jackson Hopkins, Tommy Williamson, Zach Ryan, or Cali El Medkar. Ryan is scary. He has 8 goals and 2 assists, one of their best players. El Medkar has 3 goals and 3 assists, while Tommy Williamson has 2 goals and 1 assist. Defender Bryce Washington appears to be their best defender, and we'll get to know him pretty well, hopefully, because we'll be schooling him, and we have like 3 goals on him by the end of the first half. We'll see. James, frankly, I think we have a pretty big problem on our hands. We have no players. Everybody's either injured. Wyke was recalled back to Nashville. If you haven't seen this, I don't know how we haven't mentioned it yet explicitly on this episode, but Ryan Spalding, I think maybe arguably our best player over the past, month and a half, couple months. Maybe not arguably. I think he was our best player over the past few games. Maybe not past few games, but you get what I'm saying, James. 2 big players, in particular Spalding getting recalled and tons of injuries. This is going to affect how we play this game, I'm sure. With all due respect to Loudoun and my friend Aiden Rocha, love you to death. I think this is a good game to kind of have this problem, if that makes any sense. I don't think we'll need a ton of subs. I think if we put out our best lineup and just play our game, we can come out with a healthy result, and we should leave with no less than 3 points, if I'm being honest. I think that's pretty fair to say, given our streak, given Loudoun County's recent run of games. And we'll see how they play against Birmingham tonight, but I don't expect them to win, right? James, what do you think about the situation with our players? Is this concerning to you? I know you said you're pretty happy with where the team's at. I would agree. But I think I can't help but be a little bit worried about any potential injuries. Guy gets the flu. What are you going to do? You're going to play him, right? We're in a situation where all hands are needed on deck right now. And whoever our doctors are at, Bayfront Health or whatever, whoever our health hospital people are, they're going to have a lot of work on their hands. And I hope they do their job very well, because we need these guys back ASAP. What's going on, James?
Yeah. So this is the problem that you and I have been talking about, but not explicitly mentioning until now. Yeah, the Rowdies are without 2 lone players and all of the players out with injury. So I just want to list that again. I think you already did twice now, but Lewis Hilton is out. Yep. Zach Harivo is out. Dayon Harris, I think, was out this past game. I don't know if that is a long-term thing because he has been on and off of the injury list. Felix Schroeder was out. Lucky Mkosana was out. Ariel Martinez was out. So those are all players who are out through injury. I suppose they could come back anytime, except for, I think, Hilton and Haribo, because theirs look to be a little longer term. That's concerning. Let's start with that. The Rowdies usually have a smaller roster. I think it's so that we can concentrate on quality as opposed to quantity, literally, of players. And, you know, with the limited funds that we have for salary, you have to try and spread that out as best you can. But if then you lose a couple players to injury, that's going to impact things. And that was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 players out through injury. Jake Arman is back, so that's obviously positive, and he will probably step into the left wing back slot. Now, let's go to the players that were missing on loan. Lawrence Wyke came back on loan. I think that he made 2 or 3 appearances for the Rowdies. I have my stats page, but it's not pulled up here. I'm looking at our notes for the podcast. But yeah, Lawrence Wyke coming back was important, not only because he is familiar with the system and the coach. He knows how to, you know, kind of work within it. He's also got the tactical flexibility so that he can play right back, center back, center midfielder, right wing. You know, he can kind of switch around to all those positions, and we saw him do that at times. So yeah, that's very helpful. I'm not entirely sure why Nashville has recalled him, because he didn't make any appearances for Nashville in MLS, as far as I'm aware. I sent him out on loan because he really wasn't playing much. So whatever, I don't have any control over that. And I don't know that the Rowdies do either. The other one is even bigger, because Ryan Spalding came in, and I think I said this on the podcast at least once, if not twice, but if it were the case that Ryan Spalding was not on loan from an MLS team and we just kind of had him for a while, I think that he would be up for a USL MVP conversation. He came in and he had, I think, almost as many assists as he had games. He then, in his second to last game with us, it would be his last game with us because he wasn't here. He scores 2 goals. No. He was here for the El Paso game. So I'm sorry. The second to last game. I was right originally. He scores 2 goals for us. And if he's, you know, if he has that record and it's over the course of the entire USL season, there's no way that he would not be in the conversation for USL MVP. Unfortunately, though, obviously he was here on loan, and New England have the possibility of calling him back at any time. That is their option. And so they did. I think that they are down 1 player to an ACL and at least 2 or 3 players to the Gold Cup that starts this weekend. So, you know, unfortunately, that means that they can call him back, and he will probably get some amount of playing time in MLS. Yeah. That's good for him, bad for us. But also they were probably looking at his stats and going, shit, maybe we need some of that.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think that we are going, as you said, this is a game that we should win despite it. I think that this is the perfect time kind of for all of those to get sorted out. And maybe, the Rowdy staff are out there combing through the MLS rosters being like, all right, he's not playing much. Put him aside. Maybe we'll call them and see if we can get a loan. Put him aside. Maybe we'll call that agent, you know, whatever. I don't know exactly how it works, but it's unfortunate, the timing. But if we were going to play Loudoun United at any point, it would probably be best when we have so many friggin' injuries. And I'm okay with that. Also, it should be noted, Loudoun United are missing their best player because Panos Armanakas was signed in the offseason, and he did so well that Phoenix Rising snapped him up in the middle of the year. So
good for him.
He looked to be a very good player. He wasn't their top scorer. That's still Zach Ryan, who has 8. But I would like to see us still win this game, and then maybe next week go out and sign somebody.
Exactly.
You know, we'll see.
Exactly.
But all right, that's kind of that is the main problem for the rest of the year, is the size of the squad, the injuries we've had, maybe loan recalls.
Yeah.
As you said, I'm assuming that Inter Miami won't take part in that, but I'm also hopeful that maybe we go and get another player or 2 from Inter Miami or somewhere in MLS. So
why not? Let's
just see how that plays out. But otherwise, for this specific game, I'm still feeling good.
Yeah, agreed. James, it's a big world out there. There's so many players looking for opportunities, so many good players looking for opportunities. I don't see why we wouldn't be able to find 1 or 2 guys that we can bring in and help us out in this time of need, let's say, right?
Yeah.
Again, I don't want to look too far ahead, but
And
I will.
by the way, just to say, it is the end of the season for most of the leagues around the world, so there are going to be a lot of free agents.
Exactly. Again, not to look too far ahead, but again, I will look too far ahead because that's what I do. Not this Saturday, next Saturday, July 1st, we are playing the worst team in the Western Conference. The worst team in the league right now, Las Vegas Lights FC. Away, we're playing in Las Vegas, which, again, traveling that far out west to play a game with the time difference and everything, like, I'm sure it's a bit challenging, but again, it's the worst team in the league, and we should come out with a result that game as well. Two opponents that I would take back-to-back any time of year, but especially in this time, again, when we have a little bit of a thin roster, let's say, right? Great. James, let's jump into the predictions, right? You have anything else to say on this? Okay, cool. I'll shoot my prediction first. I'm going to go with a 2-0 result. I think it's healthy. I think it's a safe result. I think Jake LaCava will score again, and JJ Williams will also score. Yeah, I just think it's a healthy result. I think it's going to be a comfortable 2-0. But again, we can't really sleep on Loudoun because it's a decent team. I mean, they're not terrible. They're not like Las Vegas, right? And they are coming off 2 wins back-to-back against pretty bad teams, but still, they got my boy Aiden Rocha. Yeah, Aiden Rocha is sick. Aiden Rocha is awesome. If we're looking for a guy to slot in the midfield, let's go get Aiden. Why not? He's stuck in Loudoun. Help him out, guys. Come on. Yeah. 2-0 is my prediction. And Ryan Helfrich, if you're listening to this, go get my boy Aiden. Let's help him out and get him out of Loudoun County. Bring him to sunny Florida. It's more beautiful down here, except today when it's raining. But we're going to need some reinforcements for sure, James. 2-0 is my prediction.
You know what? I like that shout also that we go and just sign players from Loudoun United. When I saw Georgetown play, I was always pretty impressed with Aiden Rocha, so I think that he would be a great signing. Additionally, this guy, Zach Ryan, he's got 8 goals on the year for one of the worst teams in the league. What are we doing? Go sign him. Go sign him. I don't care where you put him. Put him as a center back. He'll probably still score some goals.
Exactly.
But, I am also still feeling good about this. As you said, I think Zach Ryan will get on the score sheet because he has so many goals. So I'm putting the Rowdies as winners 3-1. And that's where I'm going to go with it.
I like it. Same differential there. 2-goal win either way. Producer Eureka is taking a 1-0 Rowdies win, a road clean sheet, he mentions. And our guest, Brian, always see him around on Twitter. Big guy on Rowdies Twitter. Love you, Brian. Brian Hattab, if I'm pronouncing your last name right. It's Brian Hattab, Hattab 33 on Twitter. Is going with a 2-1 Rowdies win. Again, healthy prediction. I think it's totally fair that Loudoun probably scores a goal. They have, like you said, a couple of good guys that can create stuff. And again, definitely not a lack of talent, I guess we could say. Individual talent that can definitely make stuff happen for them. Our back line has been solid. But like any team, we're prone to making a slight, lapse of judgment that could lead to a goal. So 2-1 result, I think, is totally fair for Brian. But I'm comfortable about a clean sheet. I'm going with my 2-0 and sticking with that, James. Anything else to say on Loudoun before we move on to our extra time segment as we start to wrap up?
No, I just want to see us get another win here, and
let's do it.
We'll go from there. All right, let's hop in. Just want to say first, congratulations to the U.S. men's national team on their CONCACAF Nations League win. There will now be the Gold Cup coming up this weekend. And I didn't have it in the notes because I didn't know it until this morning. But the women's national team was going to announce their roster for the World Cup coming up. So that was today. Congrats to all of the women who made the national team for the World Cup. I'm sure that is one of the I can't imagine a greater moment in a soccer player's life, honestly, than being told that you're going to the World Cup. So, congratulations to all of them.
Yeah, and they had a cool little video announcement, too, and they brought in a bunch of celebrities and whatever to announce every individual player.
Including my wife's favorite, Taylor Swift.
Exactly. Taylor Swift announced my absolute favorite player in the world of women's soccer, Alex Morgan. She's still killing it. Great roster. And again, I think unsurprisingly, the U.S. are the favorites to win the World Cup. But there's a lot of talent out there, James. So it's going to be a bit more challenging than the past, I'm sure.
A lot of talent, and just like the Rowdies, a lot of injuries all around.
Yeah. Yeah, it's gonna be a fun tournament to watch for sure. If you haven't been keeping up with the world of women's soccer in a bit, there's a lot of new names. Most of the names of the past of women's soccer have gone on and retired now at this point. But there's so many new players coming in, creating so much excitement on the pitch. Lots of players to keep an eye on. One of my absolute favorites, Rose Lavelle, of course, made the lineup or the roster. She's huge, going to be huge at the tournament. So we'll have to see. World Cup for the women starting up pretty soon. I believe end of July, if I'm not mistaken. So definitely something to keep an eye on. Go take a look at the roster for yourself on Twitter, online, wherever. I don't know. You can figure it out. Everybody's smart listening to this podcast. What else we got, James? We need everybody who's listening. We need your help to get nominated for a Creative Loafing's Best of the Bay. If you have 15 seconds of extra time, go ahead and navigate to Creative Loafing and look for their entertainment section, and you can nominate RBLR Sports for the best podcast. James, am I missing any details on that?
No, there will be a link in the description, but as you said, go once you're there on the voting site, go to the entertainment section. And under best podcast, you will write in RBLR Sports if you can. We do appreciate your doing so. And check out all the other categories, I suppose, while you're there, because there are some good places to vote for.
For sure.
But yeah, then Carlos, the last one is a little bit of a funny one. RBLR Sports has put together a team for the Rowdies 5v5 tournament for fun. I guess it is Saturday, July 8th. It's over in Oldsmar, and there are different divisions. I think there's a development, a whatever, and an elite division. And we are going to be in the development division. It's going to be my wife and myself, producer Eureka and his wife. There will be Ben Whitelaw from the RBLR Rays team. So there will be a couple of people from the Ralph's Mob group as well. I mean, I wanted to join this originally, and I was emailing the guy like, hey, can you just put me on a team? Like, if anybody needs any extra help. And he was like, he emailed me back something like, why don't you just put it out on Twitter, man? I bet you could find somebody. And I was like, I wouldn't be emailing you if I expected to be able to do that.
Yeah.
So I didn't put it out on Twitter, but I did talk to Eureka, and Eureka has actually been that version of things. So I guess he made it work out anyway. We put together a team, and we have all 10 spots on this team filled. And we'll be doing our 5v5 on Saturday. Go us, go RBLR Sports, and all of our friends.
Exactly. That'll be fun. Everybody should come out to that. I'm sure it'll be a good time. I don't know why we're not in the elite division, James. We should be competing with the best of the best. I think we can pull it off. What if this is like a tryout for the Rowdies that they're masking as a 5-on-5 tournament? Have you thought about that?
I mean, I've been doing a lot more running recently, so hopefully I'll be ready for that.
Yeah, I mean, with how thin the roster is, if you have a Rowdies jersey, come out and you'll probably get a chance to try out for the team.
Yeah, seriously.
We need everybody we can. If you have a Rowdies jersey, practices tomorrow at the Waters Complex. Make sure to be there 8 a.m.
Yeah. All right. Well, that should do it for us tonight. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. We do appreciate when you do so. But obviously, if you have gotten this far, then we would like to ask you to do one more thing, and that is follow RBLR Sports on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, wherever the hell you are. We will be there too, at RBLR Sports. If you'd like to get at me, you can do that. I'm on Twitter, at RBLR James K. What about you, Carlos?
At Carlos TPA10 on Twitter. Come drop a follow. Come drop the likes. Always tweeting about the world of soccer. Ecuador just finished their last friendly before the World Cup qualifiers start up soon. 3-1 win over Costa Rica, playing really well. Great roster over there. My last tweet, I don't know if I'll include this in extra time, I guess, at the end here. Raiko Rosarena made his.
I forgot to include that.
Yeah, he played this yesterday, Tuesday night against a really, really tough Chile squad. And came out, Uruguay squad. Oh my God, I put the wrong team in my tweet. God, this is embarrassing. Anyway, Raiko Rosarena played a great 90 minutes against Uruguay in Uruguay. And Cuba lost 2-0. But again, he finished with the highest rating of any player on the Cuban team.
I think 2-0 for
rating
Cuba is pretty damn good against a team that, you know, goes to the World Cup all the time.
Yeah. I mean, Cuba in the world rankings is in the high 100s. Uruguay is like in the teens, I think. So, I mean, it's a fantastic result, honestly.
Yeah.
It's not, you know, they're not playing for hardware or anything in this particular game. They are playing for practice as the Gold Cup comes up. And I'm sure, I think with this performance, just based off comparing Rico's performance with the other Cuban goalie, I think Rico might have a really, really good chance at getting that starting spot for Cuba in the Gold Cup.
We shall see. That would be so exciting.
Yeah, shout out to him. Shout out to the Cuban national team. And hopefully we have a Rowdy starting in goal for one of the Gold Cup teams. That'd be really cool to see. So good luck to Cuba. Hopefully we see Rico in that.
All right. And now with that extra time moment out of the way, please also like and subscribe to our podcast where you can get all of our notes about Rico Rosarena after we already partly forgot them at the end of the show. But you can get the full experience on YouTube. And if you just want to hear us, you can do so on Spotify, the iHeartRadio app, Apple and Google Podcasts. Again, wherever you are, we are too. So please tune in and check us out everywhere. For another week in the books for Rico Rosarena, for El Paso and Loudoun United losing, hopefully.
Yes.
Come on, you Rowdies.
Let's sign Aiden Rocha.
Thank you for tuning into this presentation by RBLR Sports. On your way out of the stadium, please remember to like and subscribe.